over our last 11 years, we've probably served over 30,000 people in various ways. Most of them is through going up the economic escalator. Some of them are early childhood outcomes, but what we're really committed to is that you want to define the outcome you want to achieve, and then you got to produce measurable results, whether it's working or not working. You can only improve something if you measure it. And that's the journey that we're very committed to.
In terms of measurement, we do impact reporting. So for instance, with our private equity and fixed income investments, we'll go down to the company level, and what we're looking for in allocating those dollars are measurable impacts. Just like Tracy is talking about, what's happening, how much carbon is saved, how many people are hired, how much renewable energy is deployed and all of that. And so that's something that we're doing in reporting out to our clients. And on the public market side, we're actually trying to create accountability around metrics, because if you have been paying attention for the last 20 years, there's been this trend of sustainability reporting. And when it first started happening, I've been in this field for about 16 years, well, probably 20, including grad school and kind of coming up the curve. But, I used to talk to my husband about this. It's like when companies first started doing sustainability reporting, it was mostly an exercise in marketing. There was some pressure from investors. And it's kind of like, and you're like, well, is that just greenwashing? And we would use the metaphor of the guy that goes to a yoga class to meet women, and then starts stretching and meditating and feeling really good. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm actually becoming a better human being. And I think with companies, it's the same thing. They start doing these things and, are being asked to measure and report. And then, there's human beings within those companies that once goals are set, and you're managing what you're measuring, they want to do good, they want to improve. And so you start to get this better form of a company. And so a lot of the work that we've done, in activism is getting transparency and reporting and accountability and those systems loops in place. So there's this sort of natural reinforcement of heading towards better outcomes.
Having a harmonized impact measurement framework and reporting framework is key for the sector to move forward, because you can compare a basis point, you can compare financial return and financial risk, but unless there's a harmonized framework, a universally agreed upon set of disclosure standards on ESG and impact, the field can't move forward. So at COP26, they announced the ISSB, the International Sustainability Standards Board, which is a culmination of decades of hard work, and which has subsumed, there's an entity called SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board in the United States. So it's a huge, huge leap forward. And I was going to cold call on Roger. This is also part of the effort that this is the second impact investing task force that is set up by the G7 under the UK presidency, the first one in 2013, and then most recently. And I've been involved with my co-founder, Ronnie Cohen, who co-opted Roger to serve on the task force this round. So I'm going to make Roger talk about the experience, because it was, we just released the report Monday of this week.
So Tracy's absolutely right. The British government has the chair of the thing called the G7, which brings together the 7 major industrial economies. And as focusing on, and part of the COP, they were very interested in just the topic we're talking about, which is how do we bring private capital to bear against some of these public issues. They created a task force, the Impact Investing Task Force. We recently released our report, as Tracy says, and it had 2 components. One was around just the point that we had to talk about, which is the consistent measurement across and using the International Sustainability Standards Board that Tracy just introduced. The other was the question of, well, how do we actually bring private sector money to bear against some of these major social issues, both in the G7 developed world, but more importantly in the emerging markets, with a primary focus, though not exclusively, on the question of climate change. And we focused in on things such as what is the actual measurement of fiduciary duty and how do you define that appropriately? What is the role of the World Bank and other multilateral institutions in providing bonds that bring private sector money in as well? So this whole range of questions, but importantly, it hit exactly these two topics that we're talking about. One was the need for measurement and clear transparency around how this is measured. And the other was, how do we have these public-private partnerships so that people like Natasha and Tracy bring private sector money, as we have been, against major social issues. And the report was released on Monday, called on governments to take much more stringent and important action. And importantly, reinforce the fact that the governments want to see private sector engagement in all of these topics.